Hey there, your Edina High School counselor is coming at you to talk to you about the PSEO program. PSEO stands for Post-Secondary Enrollment Options program in the state of Minnesota. There are some questions we're going to answer today. What is it? Who can do it? And how do you apply? We also have interviews set up with representatives from both the University of Minnesota and Normandale Community College. Those are two of our most popular sites where students go for PSEO. So first of all, let me give you a quick overview of what is it. PSEO essentially means that students get to take courses on college campuses where they're taking college level curriculum and earning a dual transcript. They're earning both a college transcript, and those credits will also count for Edina High School. So if a student takes an English class at let's say the University of Minnesota, freshman composition or something along those lines, we would be able to count that for your English credits for the year at Edina High School as well. So that's a huge benefit. You might be wondering what grades can participate. Traditionally, PSEO is set up for specifically 11th and 12th grade students. So if you're thinking about doing it, a good time that you'd start planning to apply would be in the spring of your 10th grade year or spring of your 11th grade year, looking ahead to the following academic year. There are some programs that offer 10th grade programming, but that is typically limited to career and technical education programs. So if you've done independent research already and you've seen that 10th graders can participate, it typically is because they offer some CTE or career and technical education programming. What is the benefit? Well, I already talked about how you are taking college level classes on a college campus and that can count for your Edina High School graduation requirements. Another benefit is it's paid for. Tuition is covered, so is the cost of required books, which is amazing. And some students, frankly, some students have completed all of the courses in a particular sequence, say math or science, and they have nowhere else to go at our high school to take additional coursework. Sometimes those students will opt to take a PSEO class or to apply for PSEO because it offers more advanced learning potentially. So then what is the timeline to apply? For most programs, it would be in the spring of the year prior to their intended start date. So here at Edina High School, we will see most students applying come February, March of the prior academic year for their intended start. So now I'm going to kick it over. We've got some interviews with folks from both Normandale and the University of Minnesota, and they'll be covering some specific information about their sites.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Elizondo, PSEO coordinator at Normandale Community College. I work in the admissions office, so with the help of my colleagues, I receive applications, review them for eligibility, and send acceptance letters or more information letters needed, or unfortunately denial letters.
So I'm Andrew Kopelman. I'm an academic advisor with the PSEO office specifically. I've been working here for about 12 years, and I just work with PSEO students. So we work with them on the admissions part, and when they're prospective students. Once they're here, we work with them during orientation and during ongoing advising as they pick classes each semester, kind of throughout the process of being PSEO students.
And it's a free program that's offered to students who are go-getters, who like the challenge, but maybe have goals. They want to attend a 2 or 4 year college, and the PSEO program is a great entry into that. And at Normandale, we have many students. We have a huge PSEO population. So faculty and staff have really, I don't know the word I'm looking for, not catered, but have attended to our high school students to make sure that they are succeeding. It's why we have requirements. It's why not everybody's accepted, but Normandale really believes in academic success. And so the faculty and the staff work really hard together to make sure that our PSEO students are thriving and meeting their goals.
Most intro classes are available to U of M students, to PSEO students. I know that the best place to check for what classes are specifically available and what times they're offered is schedulebuilder.umn.edu. That's our main scheduling site that they can see, like, which classes have morning lectures or afternoon classes, all that sort of stuff. And as far as how they pick those classes, it really just depends on what their interests are. We have some students who will take a class just because maybe they're taking most of their classes at high school and they just want to take a language that they haven't taken before, like Russian or Hmong or Somali or Chinese or something.
Right.
Maybe they've exhausted the sequence at their high school. Like maybe they've gone as far as you can go in math and you want to take the next math class. That can be an option. We have some students who just want to start knocking out general requirements at maybe they don't know what their major is going to be, but they want to take some college classes that'll start knocking out potential general requirements. And we have some students also who really know specifically what they want to do. Like they might say, I know that I want to be a sociology major. I know I want to go into medicine or law. And then their PSEO advisor that's assigned to them will be able to help them find classes that knock out high school requirements, but also help them start working towards that particular path. The costs that are covered are, the main two costs are tuition. So they don't have to pay any tuition costs, and required books. So if there's a required textbook, a lot of textbooks in there shifting to online, or those will be covered. All that will be covered. The main things that are not covered that students might normally use or might ordinarily want, recommended or optional books are not covered. They'd have to pay for those out of pocket. Transportation costs are not generally covered.
Let's take a quick commercial break from the interviews to look online and see where you can find some of these resources. So to be honest with you, Google is going to be our best friend in this situation, or an online search engine. So straight up, all I'm going to do is type in PSEO and then UMN, or University of Minnesota. And look at this. The first option, boom. It's going to be a direct link to the U of M's PSEO website, and it has tons of relevant information, ranging from just some quick kind of admissions numbers, like the percentage of students who typically are admitted a year and their average unweighted GPA. And then if you go down a little farther, you've got some really, really helpful links, ranging from is a quick assessment, is PSEO right for you, an application timeline, directions on how to apply, like literally a 1, 2, 3, 4, the steps that you have to do. It has information on courses as well. So make sure that you're checking out some of these online resources as we're going. For the heck of it, hey, let's just look at another one. Normandale PSEO. Sweet. So again, the first option is going to be the PSEO website for Normandale, and on these websites, they're going to have information that we're covering in this video today, and they're going to have access to the forums. Now, today we're talking about Normandale and the U of M primarily, but please know there's lots of other institutions in the state of Minnesota that offer PSEO programming. So if you're interested in another institution, be sure to look it up on their websites.
I know that when students are applying to colleges, like to be a freshman in college, they'll get a lot more of a holistic of a look. Their community service, their leadership skills, their volunteering, all that, their sport, if they're on a sports team, all that'll play a role in it. For PSEO, we're just looking at their transcript. And the two factors we're looking at are their grades and their rigor. So for grades, we're looking at there's a 3.60 unweighted GPA that's a minimum to apply, and that is a hard minimum. I know that's going to be very different from us for versus other colleges. But even with that 3.6 minimum, I think most students will tend to have a 3.8, 3.85 or above to get in. It varies from school to school. We do look at what schools offer. Like there are some schools out there that don't have AP classes, and we'll look at that differently. We want to see basically that you're taking the most challenging courses that are available to you and doing as well as possible in them.
The general PSEO program is for 11th and 12th graders. 11th graders, the requirements are a class rank if the school ranks. For juniors is, and I just wrote it down, 66%, or be in the 66th percentile. GPA needs to be at least a 3.0 for juniors. And if there are test scores from, say, ACT, pre-ACT, SAT, PSAT, the composite score needs to be at least in the 70th percentile. So basically the top third for juniors. Seniors need to be in the top half, 50th percentile with class rank, or a 2.5 GPA, or in the 50th percentile composite score for test scores.
Because the classes at the U of M have a lot less in-class time than high school usually, and a lot more outside requirements. There's an expectation that for every hour you spend in class, you'll be spending about 2 to 3 hours outside of class on your own, studying, preparing, even when it's not required. And so for students who need to have hard requirements set every step of the way, PSEO can be a real challenge. But if you can look at a schedule where you, on a day where you have, let's say, 2 or 3 hours of classes, and know that you also have to be spending another 4 to 6 hours outside of that class, outside of those scheduled times on your own studying, then PSEO can be very freeing. The other thing that jumps out at me is the willingness to ask for help. And this is often tough for PSEO students because PSEO students may not have a lot of practice with it. They may have gotten through high school being the ones who give extra help sometimes. We have some who's like your TAs for the teaching assistants for their high school classes. Sometimes there are some schools I know where the idea of going to tutoring is like you go to tutoring if you're bad at a class, and that's just not the case at the U of M. A lot of the time, the expectation is that to do well in a U of M class, even if you're doing okay in it, that to get that extra bump, you'll be going to the extra help services that the U of M offers. That you'll be seeking out your professor in their office hours for extra help, that you'll be using our free peer tutoring services, that you'll be going to with your essay to our writing center to get an extra set of eyes on it. And there's a lot of that out there, but if the student is not comfortable or not willing to seek out extra help, then all those services will be not super useful.
So we offer advising and counseling. We have all of our advisors and counselors have worked with PSEO students, so they're very attuned to the specific needs, and also know the importance of working with the high school personnel. So everyone's on the same page, especially when students sometimes struggle in the middle of a semester, say.
Right.
The high school counselor needs to know that's going on. And so our advisors and counselors can help students, help them explain what's happening. So they have different sides of support that PSEO students would do well to take advantage of and use. We have tutoring center and a writing center. So PSEO students are definitely eligible to access that. There used to be walk-in hours, but right now it's all virtual. But that's there. And these are somewhat peer students. They're college students, but they're actively at Normandale taking classes. So we have that. We have an office for students with disabilities, so high schoolers that may utilize the high school's resources that way, those that have a 504 or an IEP, are definitely encouraged to make an appointment with our office for students with disabilities to see what kind of assistance can be had there.
The application process and timeline. So the application goes live on our website starting on February 1st. The best place to find out all the information about it is z.umn.edu/PSEO apply. So z.umn.edu/PSEO apply, that'll have all the forms that students will need, all the deadlines, that's a one-stop shop. Okay, yeah, so the application goes live on February 1st at z.umn.edu/PSEO apply. The deadline to get all the forms in is May 15th. That's a postmark deadline, so as long as everything's in the mail by May 15th, students will get, will be considered on time with their application. But we recommend applying sooner rather than later in that cycle. It's not a rolling deadline. It's not like you have a better chance of getting in, but the sooner you apply, the smaller the chance is of something going horribly wrong, of like something getting lost in the mail or forgetting a form or forgetting a signature or anything like that. So if the application's in by May 15th or completed by May 15th, the decision will be sent out on June 26th or by the end of June. I guess that date may still change a little bit. They'll have access immediately to an online pre-orientation course that'll start getting them used to the U of M systems, how to pick classes, introduce them to their advisor. A couple of weeks, usually late July, they'll get contacted by their advisor directly with a set of course suggestions that they can start collaborating with their advisor on to help pick their classes, to help find what meets their interests and fills their high school requirements. They'll actually register then at a specific half-day session in late July or early August usually, where they'll meet their advisors. We'll talk about the mechanics of registration more specifically, and they'll actually sign up for classes. So the application process itself is going to be fairly straightforward. There won't be a lot that's required in terms of, there won't be any essays or recommendation letters, nothing like that that's required. It all kicks off with an online application form that opens on February 1st. That form, it'll just be their basic information, their high school, their name, that kind of gets them rolling in our system. Again, they don't have to decide at this point whether they're doing part-time or full-time. That comes after admission. Any placement testing also will happen after admission, so they don't have to. I think this is going to be one of the differences between us and a lot of schools, is that they don't have to worry about no AccuPlacer, there's no placement, no math or chemistry or language placement testing. All that happens after they've. The other documents they'll need once they've done that online application are a transcript, a high school transcript that could be official or unofficial. Does not have to be like in an official science. They'll need something called a PSEO Notice of Student Registration, which is a 3-part form. They fill out the first part. If they are under 18, they'll need a parent or guardian signature. The high school and high school counselor fill out the second part, and we fill out the rest of it when we get it. They just need to have the first 2 sections completed. If they've taken prior PSEO, they need to submit a transcript from that school. It doesn't have to be official. It could just be a screenshot or a PDF of an unofficial transcript. All those are totally fine. And that's really the required parts of the application.
Most important, we won't start processing PSEO application materials until all the required materials are together. So if there's any piece missing, if there are spots that are blank, then we request the information, but we won't begin reviewing and processing till all the pieces are together. At its basics, we have a PSEO application and a PSEO CTE application. And new this year for spring term and going forward, we're now accepting online applications. So a PSEO application, high school transcript. Because of the pandemic, we are taking copies at this time. And then the wonderful form, it's called many things. Normandale, we call it the MDE form, so a Department of Education form. Students will call it the state form. Counselors will call it the NOSR, Notice of Student Registration form. But that's a form that's needed at application. And then every subsequent semester, a student enrolls at Normandale. So those are the 3 documents. Test scores, may be required. Once that's all received, we need about, for spring, anywhere from 1 to 3 business days to review and process the application. During the fall, especially this past fall enrollment season, when everything kind of happened, we're looking at more like 5 to 10, maybe more business days from reviewing to sending out acceptance letters or final decision letters. Once the student receives that, and right now we're doing email, everything is sent via email, then it's up to the student to schedule time to attend a new student online orientation and or a PSEO webinar. And so I would say 24 to 48 business hours is a good time frame to get that done. Once those are done, either the orientation or the webinar, the student will register for their classes or their class. They can definitely check in with the high school counselor, but talk to our advisors as well. Also new this term, we have assigned advising. So that's starting to roll out, which I know a lot of students will be happy about. So there'll be specific advising, but you'll want to do that as soon as possible too. After the orientation and or webinar, register for those courses.
So we covered a ton of information today about the PSEO program at both Normandale and the U of M. If you have additional questions, feel free to research on your own on the internet, or set up a meeting with your school counselor to talk about how the program works and how it can work for you.